Life doesn't prepare you for the times when everything you've worked so hard to achieve suddenly falls apart. I had always assumed that treachery only happened to other people, to couples who had drifted away over time, but not to Emma and me. We weren't perfect, but who is? Marriage is about choosing each other every day, no matter what. That's what I believed. For Emma's birthday, I wanted to do something special. I spent weeks searching for the perfect gift, a silver necklace with a heart-shaped pendant. Inside, I had engraved 2 words, "Forever yours." It wasn't flashy, but it was sincere. I thought it would remind her of the love we'd shared for so long. That day at work in New York City felt endless. Meetings and phone calls blurred together, but the thought of seeing her smile kept me going. By the time I stepped through the door that evening, I was drained but eager. I couldn't wait to surprise her. The house smelled of Emma's signature roasted chicken, filling the air with warmth and familiarity. From the kitchen, I could hear laughter, Emma's voice mixed with our daughter Olivia's giggles. Normally, that sound would fill me with joy, but tonight, it felt different. Her laugh wasn't just happy, it was lighter, almost flirtatious in a way that made my chest tighten. I set my briefcase down quietly and moved toward the kitchen. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help myself. I stayed just out of sight, my heart racing as their voices floated down the hallway. "I can't believe how amazing last night was," Emma said, her voice soft and dreamy. "He's just so thoughtful, so different." I froze. Who was she talking about? My mind raced. She couldn't mean me. I had been working late last night. The name she mentioned next made my blood run cold. "Jake just knows how to make things exciting again," she continued, the words slicing through me. Olivia, who was only 10, responded with curiosity, her voice innocent. "What do you mean, Mom?" There was a brief pause, and then Emma laughed. "You wouldn't understand. Let's just say he knows how to make me feel special." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I backed away from the hallway, my hands trembling as I tried to process what I had just heard. Who was Jake? A coworker, a friend, or someone else entirely? The knot in my stomach tightened as I stumbled into the living room. The necklace in my pocket suddenly felt heavy, like a cruel joke. All the excitement I'd felt earlier was gone, replaced by a cold, gnawing sense of betrayal. I sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall, trying to make sense of it all. Emma's laughter echoed from the kitchen, but now it felt like a knife twisting in my chest. That night, I didn't say anything. Emma kissed me on the cheek before bed, and Olivia hugged me goodnight as if nothing had changed. I forced a smile, pretending everything was fine, but as I lay in bed beside Emma, staring at the ceiling, I knew my life had just taken a turn I couldn't ignore. The man I thought I knew, the woman I thought I could trust, had become strangers to me in the span of a few words. The next morning, I woke up feeling like an outsider in my own home. Emma hummed in the kitchen as she made breakfast, her voice light and carefree as if nothing had changed. Olivia sat at the table, her eyes bright, chatting about her plans for the day. She was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in the house. I barely touched my coffee. The bitterness of the brew paled in comparison to the churning storm inside me. "Everything okay?" Emma asked, her eyes meeting mine across the table. Her tone was casual, almost dismissive, like she hadn't noticed the change in me. I lied, forcing a smile. "Just tired. Long day ahead." She nodded, a faint smile on her lips, and turned her attention back to her phone. I watched her closely, looking for any hint of guilt in her expression, but she was a master of normalcy, hiding any emotions behind that perfect mask. If guilt weighed on her, she hid it well. I couldn't confront her yet. I needed proof, something undeniable that couldn't be twisted or denied. The idea of confronting her without it terrified me. What if she lied? What if she turned the situation around and tried to make me feel guilty? I wasn't ready for that battle. Over the next few days, I began to watch her more closely. Every glance she exchanged with Olivia, every phone call, every text was scrutinized. It felt wrong to spy on my own wife, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than I'd overheard. One evening, as Emma was taking a shower, I found myself standing in front of her phone. It sat on the counter, dark and innocuous. My hands trembled as I picked it up, my mind racing with every possible scenario. I hesitated, torn between my need for answers and my fear of what I might uncover. I unlocked the phone easily. Her password hadn't changed in years. My heart hammered in my chest as I opened her messages. There it was, right at the top of the list. Jake. His name stared back at me, daring me to dig deeper. I opened the thread and began to read. The messages started off casual, friendly banter and inside jokes, but as I scrolled further, they became something else entirely. Jake, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Emma, I feel the same. Wish we could do it again. My stomach dropped as I read those words. Each message felt like a knife in my chest. I quickly took screenshots, saving them as evidence. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was real. This was happening. The following evening, I sat in the living room, the screenshots burning a hole in my phone. Emma was in the kitchen, humming as she cleaned up after dinner. Olivia had gone to her room to finish her homework, leaving the house eerily quiet. I couldn't shake the anger and hurt that had been building inside me all day. Every time I tried to focus, the image of those messages filled my mind. Samantha, I called out, using the name I had given her when I was angry. We need to talk. She froze for a moment before turning to face me. What's wrong? She asked, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her smile was cautious, like she sensed something had shifted. I held up my phone, the messages displayed on the screen. Who's Jake? Her face drained of color, and she took a step back. Tom, I can explain. I've read the messages, I interrupted, my voice sharp. I've seen everything. Don't insult me by lying. Her eyes welled up, and she looked away, unable to meet my gaze. It's not what you think, she whispered. Then tell me what it is, I demanded, my anger rising. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been seeing someone else behind my back. She hesitated, her hands trembling as she gripped the dish towel. I never meant for it to happen, she said softly, her voice barely audible. It just happened. I scoffed, the disbelief in my voice clear. It just happened? I repeated, my anger boiling over. You don't accidentally fall into an affair, Emma. You made a choice. You betrayed me. She broke down then, collapsing into a chair as sobs racked her body. I stood there watching her, my heart torn between anger and pain. The woman I had loved and trusted had shattered everything in an instant. In the days that followed, the house felt like a war zone. Emma and I barely spoke. The tension between us was so thick it was suffocating. Olivia noticed the change. Her once bright demeanor had dimmed with worry. One evening, I found her sitting on her bed, staring at her hands. She looked up when I knocked on the door, her eyes filled with uncertainty. Dad, she said softly, is something wrong? I sat down beside her, my heart heavy. Olivia, I need to ask you something, I said gently. Do you know Jake? Has Mom mentioned him to you? Her face paled and she looked away. I didn't think you knew, she whispered. The weight of her words hit me like a freight train. You knew? I asked, my voice cracking. Olivia, why didn't you tell me? I didn't know what to do, she said, tears spilling down her face. Mom said he made her happy. She said you wouldn't understand. Her words cut deeper than I thought possible. My daughter, the one person I thought I could count on, had known all along. I pulled her into a hug, my own tears mixing with hers. It's not your fault, I said, my voice breaking. You shouldn't have been put in this position. I'm so sorry. After my conversation with Olivia, the weight of everything became unbearable. I had always believed I could protect her from the worst parts of life, that I could shield her from the pain of betrayal. But now I realized that Emma had dragged her into this mess, forcing her to carry a secret no child should ever have to bear. The days that followed were filled with an uneasy silence. Emma and I barely spoke, and when we did, it was curt and strained. Olivia tried to keep the peace, but I could see the toll it was taking on her. She avoided being in the same room with both of us, retreating to her bedroom whenever the tension became too much. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on us. One evening, I decided it was time to take the next step. Emma was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone as if nothing had happened. I walked in and placed a manila envelope on the counter in front of her. She looked up, confusion flickering across her face. What's this? She asked. Proof, I said simply. Proof of what? Proof of what you've done. Proof that I'm not blind or stupid. She opened the envelope, her hand shaking. Inside were the screenshots of her messages with Jake, along with the timeline I had pieced together of her outings and secretive behavior. She flipped through the pages, her face growing paler with each one. Tom, she began, her voice trembling. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, I interrupted, my tone hard. There's nothing you can say that will fix this. I just wanted you to see the damage you've caused." She sat down heavily, tears streaming down her face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her, but then I remembered the pain she had caused, the trust she had shattered, and the anger came rushing back. "I'm filing for divorce," I said, my voice firm. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure Olivia comes out of this as unscathed as possible." Emma looked up at me, her eyes wide with shock. "Tom, please don't do this. We can work through this. I made a mistake, but I still love you." Her words felt hollow, like an echo in an empty room. "You don't destroy someone you love," I said quietly. "You don't lie to them, betray them, and drag your own child into your mess." I turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving her sitting there with her tears and regrets. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small sense of relief. I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my life, and I wasn't going to look back. Later that night, I knocked on Olivia's door. She looked up from her desk, her face tired and drawn. "Dad," she said softly, "what's going on?" I sat down on her bed, taking a deep breath before answering. "Olivia, I want you to know that none of this is your fault. What's happening between your mom and me is because of choices we made as adults. You didn't do anything wrong." Her eyes filled with tears, and she shook her head. "But I knew, Dad. I knew, and I didn't tell you. I thought I was protecting Mom, but I was just making everything worse." I pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly as she sobbed into my chest. "You're a kid, Olivia. You shouldn't have had to carry this. Your mom put you in an impossible position, and that's on her, not you." We stayed like that for a long time, her tears soaking my shirt as I stroked her hair. When she finally pulled back, I wiped her face and gave her a small smile. "We're going to get through this," I said. "You and me. No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." The next morning, I reached out to Caleb, my best friend. He had been my rock through so many ups and downs in life. When I told him everything, he listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each word. "This Jake guy," he said finally, his voice serious. "He sounds like trouble. If you want, I can help you dig into him, find out what kind of person he really is." I hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "Do it. I need to know everything." Over the next few days, Caleb worked his connections and uncovered more than I could have imagined. Jake wasn't just some random guy Emma had met. He had a history, a pattern of getting involved with married women, using them for his own gain, and then disappearing when things got complicated. There were rumors of shady business deals, lawsuits, and even criminal investigations. Armed with this information, I met with my lawyer again. "We're not just going after a divorce," I said. "We're going to make sure Emma and Jake can't hurt Olivia or anyone else ever again." When I confronted Emma with what Caleb had uncovered, her reaction was a mix of shock and denial. "You're lying," she said, her voice trembling. "He's not like that." I handed her the file Caleb had compiled. "Read it," I said, "then tell me if you still believe that." She flipped through the pages, her face growing paler with each one. When she finally looked up, her eyes were filled with tears. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know who he really was." Her words did little to soften my anger. "You didn't care," I said. "You didn't care about me, about Olivia, or about what this would do to us. You let this man into our lives, and now we're paying the price." After Emma read through the file, she sat silently, her hands trembling as they clutched the stack of papers. Her tears were steady now, but they no longer moved me. I had seen this performance before, the regret, the sorrow, but this time it felt like it was for herself, not for what she had done to us. "What happens now?" she finally asked, her voice barely audible. I leaned back, crossing my arms. "You tell me, Emma. What do you want? To keep pretending everything is fine? To ignore what this has done to Olivia? Or do you want to face the consequences?" She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears, but she didn't answer. Her silence spoke volumes, and I felt my resolve harden. I'd already started the process of moving forward, but now I realized I couldn't just focus on my own recovery. I had to protect Olivia from the fallout. "I've spoken to a lawyer," I said, my voice steady. "The divorce papers will be ready soon. I'll make sure Olivia is taken care of and that she's shielded from this as much as possible. But Emma, you've made your choices. Now it's time to live with them." Olivia deserved the truth, even if it was painful. I couldn't let her grow up with unanswered questions or the feeling that she had been left in the dark. A few days after confronting Emma, I sat Olivia down in the living room. The weight of what I was about to say felt unbearable, but it had to be done. "Olivia, I began, my voice soft but firm. "There's something I need to talk to you about. It's about your mom and me." Her eyes widened, and she hugged a pillow tightly to her chest. "Are you getting a divorce?" she asked, her voice trembling. I nodded, the lump in my throat making it hard to speak. "Yes, sweetheart, we are. Your mom and I have been struggling for a while now, and it's clear that we can't fix things. But I need you to know that this is not your fault. None of this is because of you." Tears filled her eyes, and she looked away. "I heard you fighting," she admitted quietly. I knew something was wrong. I reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I know this is hard to understand, but we both love you so much. That will never change. Your mom and I, we've made mistakes, and we need to move on in a way that's best for all of us." She nodded slowly, her tears spilling over as she leaned into me. "I just want us to be happy again," she whispered. Emma tried to reach out multiple times in the days that followed. She left notes on the kitchen counter, sent long text messages, and even sat outside my office door late one night, begging me to talk. But I couldn't. Every word she said felt like a wound reopening, a reminder of how much she had broken. One evening, she cornered me in the living room. Olivia was at a friend's house, and the house was quiet except for the sound of rain tapping against the windows. "Tom, please," she said, her voice trembling. "Can we try? Can we go to counseling? Do something to fix this?" I turned to face her, my expression hard. "Fix this, Emma? You didn't just hurt me. You hurt Olivia. You destroyed the foundation of our family. This isn't something we can just patch up with a few therapy sessions." She flinched but didn't look away. "I know I messed up," she said. "I know I hurt you, but I still love you. Doesn't that count for something?" I shook my head. "It's too late. Love isn't enough to undo what you've done. You made your choices, Emma. Now I'm making mine." The divorce process began in earnest, and it was every bit as messy and painful as I had feared. My lawyer, a sharp and no-nonsense woman named Rebecca, guided me through every step. She advised me to stay calm, avoid getting drawn into Emma's emotional appeals, and focus on protecting Olivia's well-being. Emma initially fought the terms, particularly the custody agreement. She insisted that she deserved joint custody, that she wasn't a bad mother despite her mistakes. But Rebecca was prepared. She presented the evidence of Emma's affair and highlighted how it had affected Olivia, making a strong case for why I should have primary custody. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. Emma was granted visitation rights, but Olivia would stay with me. It was a bittersweet victory. I didn't want to take Olivia away from her mother, but I knew it was the best thing for her. As the divorce was finalized, Emma's life began to unravel. Jake's shady business dealings came to light, and he disappeared as quickly as he had entered her life. Her friends distanced themselves, and her reputation in the community was tarnished. She tried to pick up the pieces, but it was clear she was struggling. Meanwhile, Olivia and I began to rebuild. It wasn't easy. There were days when the weight of everything threatened to crush me, but I held on for her. I made sure she knew she was loved, that she was safe, and that we would get through this together. Months passed, and the pain began to fade, replaced by a sense of hope. Olivia started smiling more. Her laughter returned, filling the house with warmth again. I threw myself into my work, my hobbies, and most importantly, my role as her father. Slowly, I began to see a future that wasn't defined by betrayal, but by resilience. One evening, as Olivia and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, she turned to me and said, "I'm glad we're okay now, Dad. I'm glad we're happy." I smiled, pulling her close. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." For the first time in what felt like forever, I believed it.